We're here with Guy Harris, one of Elvis's friends, one of his best friends when he was a child. Now, you grew up around here, is that correct?
That's true. I was born and raised at 207 Adams Street, which is right in front of the Assembly of God Church down Adams Street. The street was named after my grandfather, Guy Adams.
Really? When do you remember, when did you meet Elvis for the first time? Do you remember?
Well, of course, he was 3 years older than I was, so I had a little catching up to do. But I guess really, actually, when we were kids, just out playing and all, we got real thick because Gladys, his mother, and my mother were always friends through the years, and you know, best of friends. And so our relationship and friendship just began at a very young age, you know.
What sort of things y'all used to do? You used to get in trouble, didn't you?
Well, we did do that pretty often. You know, we would, especially if we went to the swimming hole, that was off limits to us. But that was just part of it, I guess. We made about everything we played with. We made back in those days. We would make little toy cars, and we'd play on the houses with them. You know, we'd spend a day or two making us flying Jenny, that we called it. It was a pole stuck up in the yard with a axle drove down in the top of it, and we'd make us a couple of wooden boxes and put it on each end and put axle grease on the top of it, and we would spin each other around in it. And
oh my goodness.
And you know, just whatever we could come up with to entertain ourselves, because in this area out here there wasn't a lot of money back in those days, but you know, everybody was happy, everybody had a good time, and really enjoyed being with each other and all that.
Well, you had to be creative to have fun back then.
Well, you know,
you didn't have a lot of gadgets to buy.
Yeah, you know, everybody had a sense of humor, you know, and a lot of those kids, you know, them being a little ahead of me about 3 years, they'd come up with some of these things that, you know, that like we built a boat one time, and they had me holding I had a wire around a can of tar and holding it over open fire, melting a tire to pour in a boat to keep the water out. Well, the can failed and the tar went all over my arm, and I got severely burned on one of my arms that day. And of course, I don't think the burns hurt as bad as my whipping I got from my mom for being involved in that. So as you see, we just had really had a good time. We went to school together, we went to church together, we played together, and back in those days it was really probably a 7-day-a-week deal, unless somebody was out of pocket. You know, also the other kids around our area played with us. Up on Kelly Street, it was the Farrells, the Clarks, the Morgans, some Presley. The Presleys lived up there also. Elvis's cousins and things, and which were always a little bit younger than we were. But you know, it was just a fun time in East Tupelo in those days.
Did y'all play any sports?
We played touch football. We'd play basketball. We'd play softball. We'd play wiffle ball, and just, you know, everything that kids do. And occasionally in the winters we'd get a snow occasionally, and we'd have a lot of good snowball fights back in those days.
I can imagine Tupelo getting snow, but I guess it did.
Yeah, you know, it was few and far between, but we got more snow back when we were kids than we do in these days now. But I'd say mostly, and we would get out and go up and down the streets, you know, where the city had cleaned out the ditches for the water runoffs, and we'd pick up iron, and we'd save it till we'd get us 2 or 3 wagonfuls of it, and then we'd pull it into town and sell it, and get us a little money to go to the movie on a Saturday. We usually got to go to the movie, if we had the money, about once a month.
Once a month for movies?
Yeah.
And
you know, in the movies, 10 cents for one of them to get in, and the other one was 15. So we got to go to two. We got to go to one about 9 o'clock on Saturday morning, and then the other one had started at 1. But our mode of transportation was by foot, so we had to walk into town and walk out. But we were always had to be home before dark.
Yeah.
On any given day that they'd give us permission to go into town and do stuff like that.
Were your parents strict on you?
Very strict. You know, it was. I guess you've noticed through the years, and noticed him as he's coming up there in Memphis after he moved there. It was always yes ma'am and no ma'am, and it wasn't just to you know, to your. It was always to all your superiors, the people that older than you and all that kind of stuff. You know, that we did it. And if you happen to not make that yes ma'am and no ma'am, when you got home, you paid the fiddler for that too.
Oh my!
Yeah. So everybody was, all these kids in this area was disciplined real well. We didn't think about. There was a few that smoked cigarettes and things. Now he and I never smoked any, and a lot of those guys that grew up with us, they never smoked until they got grown.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And I never did take up the habit. I you know, just one habit. I never did like the habit, so I never did take it up. And I would question them as to why did you wait till you get grown to do this? You know, knowing the answer that was they didn't want their parents catching them doing this sort of stuff. And we'd play in these woods here back to our left here. Back in those days, we call those Reese's woods.
Oh really?
Yeah, and the wood actually the wooded area started just north of our house there, and went probably up about 2 or 3 miles, and then we'd walk that area. We'd play in those pastures out there where they let cattle graze. Of course, the city's got some real nice ball complexes in that area at this time, but we would play in those areas down there, and we'd always try to make it a point to go to our favorite swimming hole. If we had a chance, we would slip us out something to swim in, and if we didn't, we'd just go in the nude. You know, of course, was all just little bitty fellas and
skinny dipping.
We
Oh boy!
But we had a nice sandy beach on the west side of the creek. Of course, my brother and I were the smallest in the two. If he was with us, playing with us, and but some of the bigger guys would always get us across the deep water and get us to over on the beach side, and then they would play with us out in the water and stuff and watch after us real close. But those parents still didn't go for that.
They didn't know.
But you know, it was what I liked about it. Everybody was real close. Close knit, you know, and all that kind of stuff, and so we really had a wonderful time together.
Yeah.
We did.
Yeah. Even though Elvis left for Memphis, you still continue to be friends with him, is that right?
We did, yeah. He would, of course, they would come back here on occasions, and we would visit. In fact, when Gladys Vernon and them left Tupelo and Elvis in the 40s, well. My aunt left Tupelo and went with them because they all left East Tupelo here seeking work, and that was the reason for going to Memphis. And they all lived in the same boarding house. I don't remember exactly where it was at up there. And the Presleys lived on one side, and my aunt and this other friend of hers is up there, which I don't recall her name, lived on the other side. And they ate dinner together probably, my aunt would say, 2 or 3 nights a week, and then, you know, they would let them have their privacy also. But it was, you know, for them, it was just like, you know, it was somebody there that they knew. They wasn't just there alone, you know. Of course, he probably made friends a lot faster than his parents did, because I'm sure Gladys got out mixed and mingled, but now in those days when Elvis was growing up, well, Gladys was she stayed home and kept Elvis, and I think that probably continued on after they went to Memphis.
Yeah.
There. But we would visit Graceland on Sunday afternoons. We'd try to be there around the noon hour because we knew that we were going to get something to eat. Because he would be getting up about that time.
Good timing, good timing. Yeah, that's good timing. Yes, it was.
And we'd go in. Well, we'd holler at Vester. Vester used to live in the house with my aunt, just 3 houses down the Reese Street here on the right. And my aunt lived on one side, Vester and them. So my brother would either get out of the car and holler to Vester to open the gate for us, or either he would just roll the window down and holler, "Investor, let us in," and he'd call up to the house and say, "Well, the Harris boys is on the way up there." So we'd drive on up and park out in front of Graceland and go in, and Gladys would usually be sitting around in there, her and Miss Minnie and of course the cooks and Vernon and all of them would be mixing and mingling, and so she'd say, "Tell the cook what you guys want to eat," and said, and then she always called me Guy Thomas. If you'll know, in the olden days, just about they used the whole name, kids, so she'd say, "Come here, Guy Thomas, tell me what's going on down at home." In fact, I think that East Tupelo here was always home to her, and it was just, it was just a, we if we didn't go up there every week, it was probably every other week or stuff like that.
Yeah.
And after he'd come down, and after we'd sit there and talk and have a little visit, then we'd go outside. We'd either play touch football out on the north lawn of Graceland, or we would go out back and look around and just talk and just have a good time visiting with each other. It was always, there wasn't any difference in the time that the Presleys moved from where they did to Graceland when they left East Tupelo with us as it was any other time. I mean, the door was always there, open for us.
You mean they
always welcome?
They didn't act any different because they had a lot more money? Or?
Not a bit, and in fact, Gladys, when my mother and them would visit with Gladys and them at Graceland, which she did in over on Audubon Drive and in Memphis also, she would always ask my mom, she'd say, "If there's anything you need, anything I can do for you." And on occasion, her mother had, some things going that us kids didn't know about, but I mean, we knew about it, but we didn't ask any questions.
Yeah.
That's just one thing that the kids in the early days didn't do. You never question your parents about anything.
So Elvis really was the same guy. He didn't change.
Yeah, he was the same guy toward me, Mike. The last time that I really had a very long visit with him, probably when in 1970, he and Bill Marsh, the former mayor of Memphis, and also the county sheriff there in Shelby County visited down here. And I was on the Tupelo Police Department back in those days from '63 to '83, and so he called and said they were coming into town, and we had a good visit that time, and he and I and Priscilla, we came out here to the park just about dusk dark. We walked around and talked and that kind of stuff. And I remember him telling Priscilla as we was walking out across the front of the museum here that he told us that, well, Guy Thomas was my best friend when I lived in Tupelo. He said we had a lot of good times in this area up here together, and he wanted to know if many people came and swam in the swimming pool up here on the park, and also he wanted to know if me and Junior, my brother, ever played any ball over there on the ballpark, and I told him yeah, and he was satisfied with that. So he was pretty well satisfied with everything.
Yeah. Did he come back to Tupelo that often?
Well, he did more in the earlier days, Mike, than he did, say in the 50s, the late 50s.
Yeah.
I'd come in from school a lot of time, and I'd see his car sitting in front of the house whenever I would turn the corner headed for the house, and I said, well, OEP's down. And so him and my mom might be sitting there talking. He might have come in around noon or something like that.
Yeah.
She'd fix him a bite to eat if he wanted something, and they'd sit around and talk. And she always, and she said he really enjoyed sitting around just talking to her, because he always thought a lot of my mother, and he always called her Miss Faye. Of course, we always just called Gladys, if we were playing at our house back in those days, in the early days, and my mom, if Gladys was out of pocket for something, if Mom disciplined me and my brother and whoever else was there, including him, she disciplined him.
Really?
And it was vice versa. If we were playing at the Presleys or at his house, it was vice versa. I know one day on this lot just south of us here, he and I spent I don't know, the biggest portion of a morning digging up old wild rose bushes and replanting them. Just something to do, just something for us to get out and do is what it amounted to. Yeah.
Got in trouble for that?
Oh, well, no, not really. I wound up taking one down to our house, and I planted it right beside the house, and the thing would grow up on the side of the house in the summer. Of course, my mom liked roses, so she didn't complain a whole lot about that, but she said, son, you could plant that rose bush anywhere except right there, and I agreed with her, but of course, I was scared not to agree with her. I know one time I had got into something down there, and she said, go get me a limb off that tree out there. Well, I went out there and found the smallest thing I could get, just cut it off real quick, took it in. Well, she whipped me about 2 licks, and that thing broke. Well, she grabbed the knife up. I said, I'll go get it, Mama. She said, no, you've had your opportunity. so it was just, but I mean, a lot of respect for everybody.
Yeah. She didn't give her any lip.
No, you didn't give him any lip. And if he was going to get to go, so I know one time they was going swimming out the state park, man, and I broke down and started squalling and carrying on. And she said, I've done told you can't go. Well, one of the Presleys said, well, if you'll let him go, we'll be sure we watch him. She'll say, well, that's the only way he's going to go, is for y'all to be sure that you watch him real close. But, we were just close-knit. I guess the people in this area back in the 40s and early 50s were as close as a lot of families are today. I still refer to this area, even though it's Presley Heights, Elvis Presley Heights, I still refer to it as East Tupelo, but that's just been instilled in me for nearly 70 years now.
Yeah.
So it's hard to get out of my car. But however, I'm proud if they was going to change the name of the thing, it was him or one of us.
Sure.
That grew up in this area, because he was a heck of a guy. I really liked him, and we were real close.
Yeah.
And
well, tell me about the big day, '56. He did the show at the fair.
Oh yeah. 2
shows actually, but they had the parade for him and all that.
Yeah, they did. And
did you get to go to any of that stuff?
I did. I went to see him down there, and later on, I had a friend in Memphis, and I said something about the black velveteen shirt he wore at the fair. She said, well, would you like one of them? And I said, yeah. She said, well, I'd make one just like it. I said, well, if you would, I'd appreciate it. And she did, but I didn't actually get to visit with him that day, because, I was still in high school. This 56, that was in my senior year, 56, 57 school year. And I was graduating in the spring of 57, and but later on, I told him one day up Graceland when we were out back talking, I said, buddy, you owe me, I don't know, it seemed like the tickets might have cost $10 or something like that. And he said, for what? I said, for having to pay to see you when you came to Tupelo to the fair that time. But what's amazing about that was, about 1953, he came down here, and he and I and Odell went to the fair together.
Oh, just on your own?
Yeah.
Just on your own?
Yeah,
oh,
just
okay.
on, you know,
I didn't know that.
Before he had anything going, and you know, and he came down, and we went over to the fair, and we probably got there around 7:30 and spent probably till, I'd say 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning before I tried to get him to spend the night with us, he and I and Odell, but he said that he better get back home. Said, you know, Gladys would be wondering what happened to him if he wasn't there when she woke up the next morning.
Oh my!
So even at that age, you know, and you know, and everything. Well, you know, you still, if you still live with your parents, you had obligation to them to do
really?
Whatever they ask of you.
So what y'all do at the fair all night?
Well, we just we rode some of the rides, and
Yeah.
we'd run into people that he'd went to school with, and he'd stand there and talk to them a little while and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And we went to that fair a lot of years together. But that particular day they had a big parade that day. This was in 1956. He was here in 56 and 57.
Yeah, to do the shows,
yeah,
right?
To do his shows, yeah.
Yeah.
And then we just had a big time, you know, and at the fair had a lot of good time together. We went over the fence like we'd always done all of our lives, you know, and just had a real good time doing this and doing that. He said something about driving a truck for the company he worked for there in Memphis, and he said, but I don't want to be to do that all of my life. And I said, well, you know, I can understand that. I wouldn't either, you know.
Yeah.
And what was so amazing is him going into Sun Studios and asking Mr. Phillips, you know, about cutting a record for his mama.
Yeah.
And he told me, he said, he asked me, he said, well, can you sing? He said, well, I think so, but I don't know what you think.
So he had already walked in the Sun Studio and you talked to him at 53?
He had, when I had talked to him later on, you know, when he had actually done this. And, he told me, he said, I just wanted to make Mama a record, you know, and he said, actually, I wanted to see how I sounded myself, you know.
Yeah.
And so I never will forget the first time that I heard it on the radio that my neighbor across the street that lived right behind the Assembly of God Church, a guy by the name of Ed Randall, hollered at me. I was washing my old car I had out there in the yard. He said, run over here right quick. Well, he was working on his old car. I thought maybe the guy had got hurt. And I went running over. He said, listen to that record. And I listened to it. He said, they got through. He said, who is that? I said, I don't know, but I said, it sure sounds familiar, don't it? He said, I know who it is, but said, I want to see if you can guess who it is. And I thought of everybody in the world but EP, so I said, no, Ed, I really don't know. I said, who is it? And he said, this Elvis Presley, it's your buddy Elvis. And I said, no, I said, you kidding? I said, and so, you know, I was hard-headed. I had to be so I went home and I called a radio station. And I said, that record you played a while ago, that's all right, Mom. I said, who was that artist? And they said, Elvis Presley. And so I hollered back across the yard. I said, you was right, Ed. For one time, you was right, you know. And we had a big laugh about that. And I said, could you play it again? And so they said, well, we trying to play it about every 30 minutes because we're having so many calls for it.
Really?
Yeah, so we're trying to play it about every 30 minutes. So I stayed glued to that radio, and about 30 minutes they played it again. I could tell right off the old boy's going to be pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Well, Guy, before Elvis moved away, did you see anything that would make you think he had talent to be an entertainer?
Well, Mike, you know, he had his little guitar that his mother had bought him over at the hardware store, and he asked us guys one day right across the street here. We were visiting with the kids that lived here where the birthplace is now, in one of the houses. There were 5 of those houses, and the Crowd Boys. So we were visiting with them over there by the Methodist Church one day, and so he asked us when we got through if we wanted to hear him play his guitar and sing Old Ship. And of course, we told him sure, you know. And so we went on over to his house, and he went in, got his guitar, and came out and sang Old Ship. And then I don't know, probably strummed 2 or 3 more that you know, that we all acted a fool on, singing, you know, and just having a big time, you know how kids do.
Yeah.
But yeah, and you know, he always sang in the choir.
At church?
At church.
Okay.
At the Assembly of God Church. In fact, all of us kids made a big line for that choir on Sunday night, you know.
Oh, yeah.
I was a Baptist on Sunday morning and Assembly of God on Sunday night, you know.
So you went to different churches?
Well, yeah, I did, but that was real handy, and our parents didn't like us crossing the highway, you know, at nighttime anyway.
Yeah.
Because there weren't any red lights or anything in this town at that time, you know, and you know, and safety and a lot of other reasons too. So we just went to Assembly of God because of course they went there regular, you know, and we went there at night. I know it would be me, Odell, Elvis, some of the Clarks, other Clarks, and some of the Farrah kids, and Magdalene Morgan attended the Assembly of God Church. They were regulars. I heard her mom, you know, she was a friend of Elvis's in the early days, and just different ones, you know. And but I have people ask me a lot of time, well, how did he stand out, you know, above everybody else? Which, you know, if he didn't any of us notice it, you know.
Well, he was just another kid.
Yeah, just another kid, you know, at that time doing that. And but we really spent a lot of good times together, even in the church house.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that was another one of those deals that you didn't argue about. You knew what you was going to do on Sunday morning and Sunday night and on Wednesday night. Those 3 nights, that was church.
That was church.
Yeah. If anything was said, they'd say, well, you know, this is a church night.
Didn't I hear that Elvis was in a talent show?
He was, yeah. He was in a talent show at the Mississippi-Alabama Fair one year, and he came in 2nd place to a young lady that was raised just around the corner from us here by the name of Shirley Jane Jones at that time. Of course, her name now is Shirley Jane Jones Gillentine.
Guy, thanks for talking to us. Appreciate it all. Learned a lot today from you.
Well, you know, I like to sit down with guys like you.
Yeah.
You've been a lot of inspiration to me once I found out, you know, you owned the first house that Elvis ever owned in Memphis, and we've, you know, our friendship has just grown through the years, and I sure appreciate sitting down and talking with you.
I've enjoyed a lot of your stories.
Yeah.